what you want to. You try to hush me, but it's a risky stunter. You try to kick, but it's my turn to climb. Wind down right now. No, I'm not your puppy. I'm a 5-a-day sister, yo. Did you forget? Clearly, I'm me. All I'm trying to be. You see, I'm blunt. Ain't no hush. That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me?
That ain't me. To shut me up is to kill me. I ain't gonna ever stop. People, you feel me? Murdered by cops appears to be the new Lynch. KKK on the jury and the judge, bitch. We ain't afraid to stand up and speak the truth. It ain't never been me to miss voting in the booth. Not a feminist, but an activist for real. From women's rights to Kaepernick's right to kneel. We march a lot and we comment online while the enemies plot and watching us all the time. Yo, it's time to unite and put aside all the beef. Love is all we got, and hate ain't never been me.
That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? That ain't never been me. Out of pocket, out of line. They say I'm way before my time. You're minding yours, I'm minding mine. Everybody want more. That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? Boy. That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? Boy. That ain't never been me. I ain't never been saved. You want a little both me? That ain't never gonna be me. I ain't never.
Assalamu alaikum. Can everybody hear me? Okay, wonderful. Alhamdulillah. Welcome everyone tonight to the Dollar in My Pocket, Halal Investing 101. My name is Noshina Hussain. I'm the Executive Director of Reviving the Islamic Sisterhood for Empowerment. I'm going to pass it over to Zainab Abdi, who is our Civic Engagement Coordinator, and she's going to do a Quran recitation.
Salam everyone, I'm Zainab. So I'm gonna do the Arabic part and then I will do the English. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, most merciful. All praises is for Allah, Lord of all worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Master of the Day of the Judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us along the straight path, the path of those you have blessed, not those you are displeased with, or those who are astray. Ameen.
Thank you, Zainab. And so tonight, thanks everyone for attending. I'm really excited because we had a great kickoff a few weeks ago around just changing our mindset around building wealth. And so today I'm really excited that Shafaq Kazi is actually joining us from ShariaPortfolio. Shafaq started her career as a course instructor for a software company. She has taught high school math, science in US private and public schools. Shafaq spent 5 years as a team lead at Bayina TV, where she wore many hats, including but not limited to customer care, daily operations, website, and CRM management. She's always been involved with volunteering in different capacities. Shafaq led educational classes and motivational talks at community centers using multimedia and visual aids to enhance learning experiences for women. Attention to detail, empathy, and good listening skills are some of the talents that women can bring to the investment advising, yet they continue to be underrepresented in this field. Shafaq hopes to see this change in the near future. Living in the eclectic city of Austin, Texas, Shafaq is happily married with 2 adult children. She's an avid reader and considers herself a seeker of knowledge. Please welcome Sister Shafaq.
Wow, I didn't expect you to read my bio, but thank you so much. Salaam alaikum, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for having me tonight. It's pure pleasure to be able to present to this wonderful group of children, wonderful group of women. And special thanks to Noshina for organizing this and making this possible. So alhamdulillah, I'm really excited. And Noshina, do you want me to start or start here? Okay, so I'm going to share my presentation, inshallah. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Are you all able to see my screen? Perfect. So as you all know, today's presentation is about Halal Investing 101. And before we move on to the actual presentation, let me go through the disclaimer slide that we normally do. Basically, it means that this presentation, this webinar is only for educational purposes. And if any one of you need one-on-one consultation or need to reach out to a financial advisor, please feel free to reach out to any of the financial advisors at Sharia-Portfolio. You can find our contacts on the website, or you can reach out to me, and my contact info will be displayed at the end of the presentation, inshallah. Now, a little bit about myself. Actually, Noshina already did that, but I'm a licensed financial advisor at Sharia-Portfolio, and I love working with my clients, many of who come from different states in US, from different professions. Many are also self-employed. I live in Austin, Texas with my husband and my family. The agenda for today's presentation is I will begin with a little bit of an overview of Sharia-Portfolio, who we are, what we do, how we function. And the actual presentation is divided into 4 parts. So the first part is about, we go about demystifying the stock market and discuss some fundamental basic definitions. Then we move on to investment philosophy. There are different kinds of investment philosophies. So there is technical analysis, quantitative method, day trading, value investing, and we will particularly be discussing value investing in today's presentation. After that, we will move on to Sharia compliance on how to screen the stocks, the companies for Sharia compliance. Where do you look? How to figure out if a company is halal or not, and all that. And then, of course, once you've learned about all these basic terms, the stock market, investment philosophy, Sharia compliance, then you would want to put this knowledge to work and figure out how to get started. So I will discuss some options on how to get started. So the idea is that by the end of the presentation, you have some options to get yourself started and put your hard-earned money into invest into a Sharia compliance manner. And of course, towards the end, we will allow some time for Q&A session, inshallah. So here's a little bit about Sharia-Portfolio. Sharia-Portfolio offers professionally managed investment solutions that help Muslims achieve their financial goals while aligning with their personal values. Sharia-Portfolio USA was founded in 2003 in US and is licensed by the US Securities and Exchange Commission, better known as SEC. We have clients in US. We're fully licensed to serve anywhere in the United States, but we also have presence in Canada, and we are also able to serve internationally. We are obviously dedicated to Sharia compliant portfolio management, and we partner with the top tier custodians such as TD Ameritrade. And what is typical with any well-known custodian in the nation. TD Ameritrade offers FDIC insurance up to $250,000 in cash, and your accounts are also SEEPS insured up to $500,000. So whatever typical offerings come from a well-known standard custodian in the US, those features are extended to our clients as well. We do have two different services. Our access service is the premier solution. It's one of the more popular service that we offer. And we also have express service, which is much more of an economical solution for halal investing. We will discuss a little bit more towards the end about these services as well. As far as account types are concerned, ShariaPortfolio is able to support all kinds of accounts. So if you're looking for retirement accounts, so 401k, traditional IRA, Roth IRA, we're able to offer those. If you're self-employed, we're also able to offer SEP IRA or individual 401ks. We offer education savings account, UTMA, that you see on the screen is one of the education savings accounts that we offer. And if you have spare cash sitting in the bank, losing its purchasing power, you can open an investment account and put your money to work. So let's get started. Stock market. Let's get started with the very basic stock market. And what do you understand by stock market? Stock market basically is a place where people are able to buy stocks. It's a place where publicly listed companies are traded. Basically, it allows individuals like you and me to invest in publicly listed companies. And New York Stock Exchange, or NYSE, is one such example of a stock market. Now we will discuss some terms that we will be using throughout the presentation. So let's begin with stocks. What do you understand by stocks? Stocks are a way that you and me, ordinary people like you and me, can invest in some of the most successful companies in the world, like Apple or Tesla. So when we buy stock, we basically become part owners in the company. So we're shareholders, and we have a share in the company's profits. Moving on to bonds. On the other hand, bonds are debt obligations. So basically, bonds are issued by often, corporations or government when they want to raise some big money to finish a project. So oftentimes, your city, your county, your state may issue bonds, maybe because they want to build a bridge or a park or one of those things, and they need to raise money to do that. And so they will issue bonds. And when you buy bonds, you're basically lending money to that entity. And in return, they pay you in interest. So obviously, bonds involve riba interest, and they're not Sharia compliant. And at ShariaPortfolio, we don't have bonds in our portfolios for any of our clients because of the obvious reason. Sukuk, on the other hand, are Sharia compliant bonds. Even though they're called bonds, they are nothing like the traditional bonds that I mentioned earlier. And that's a very important thing that we have to remember. It's an important distinction, because sukuks are backed by underlying tangible assets that generate revenue. And as a sukuk holder, you become a partial owner of those assets and start earning a percentage in the revenue that's generated. So basically, it's more like a partnership leasing agreement versus bonds that's more like a debt obligation, and it involves interest. And then the portfolio is basically where all your investments are listed. So let's say if you have 2 stocks of Microsoft, 5 stocks of Tesla, 3 stocks of Moderna, I'm just throwing names in there. These things will be listed in your portfolio. So your portfolio is the totality of all the investments that you hold. And we'll be using these terms throughout our presentations, inshallah. Now, this is one of my favorite slides. I use this slide to allow people to overcome their fears about the stock market. So more likely than not, if someone's worried about losing their money in stock market, they're thinking in short term. They're probably thinking about short-term returns. So if you look at this slide, it spans from April 2007 to April 2009. So it's a 2-year span of time. And you can see the stock market, basically, it's a downward spiral, right? It's tumbling down. And it's covering the 2008 financial crisis, which was considered to be a huge crisis at the time. And when anybody sees this slide, they get anxious. They are afraid to invest in the stock market. But the next slide that I'm going to show you, basically, I'm going to zoom out of this slide and take a long-term look at this whole thing. So here you go. Y'all are able to see my entire slide, right?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, a little bit of it is cut off by let me just move this around. Okay, now I'm good to go. So if you look at this slide, it's basically a zoomed out version of the previous slide. And the previous slide of downward spiral that I just showed you was just this red circle that you see here. So now you see that definitely stock market goes up and down and up and down and up and down. That's just the nature of the stock market. That's just the nature of the beast. But despite these dips, the general trend or the trajectory is upwards. So if you were to invest in a stock market and have a long-term outlook, you're likely to achieve returns close to around 10%. Annually. And despite these daily dips, ups and downs, the general trajectory is upwards, and it always pays off to have a long-term outlook in investing. And if you're thinking of investing, you may want to think at least 3 years or more. Now, here's the slide where when generally people are asked about why do you want to invest, they come up with these 4 answers. And, there are surveys done around, and most of the time, these are the responses that are collected. One of the four reasons people give for investing is 1, retirement, education, charity, and taxes. Retirement, obviously, it's an important aspect of our life. We all need to be prepared for retirement because at old age, if you think you're going to rely on Social Security, then 1, Social Security may not even be there. And if it is there, it's generally seen that it covers only about 20% of our total income needs. So definitely it's a good idea to save for retirement, and retirement and taxes generally go hand in hand because most of the retirement accounts that are offered, they offer tax benefits. And it's always a good idea to save in those retirement accounts, because if you don't do that, if you don't take advantage of the retirement accounts, you will see that you're paying up to 2% in taxes every year. The second reason given by most people is education. And by education, they mean they want to save for their children's education. So if you look at the 4-year college cost right now, for an undergrad degree, it comes across 100K or so. And this is just a state university or an undergrad degree. This is not even the private schools or grad degrees. And if you have little children who are, going to go to college in future years, then the projection for college cost for a 4-year university cost is 175K or so. So it's always a good idea to start saving for your children's education because, the best gift parents can give to their children is gift of education. At ShariaPortfolio, we do offer education savings account. And one of the accounts that we actually offer, and it's more popular than the other one, is because it's not restricted only to education. So you can use the money that you save in that account for various things, such as wedding expenses, buy a car, down payment for a house, or even Umrah trip. So, it's very flexible and you can use that money for different things. It's not restricted only to education. The third reason given by a lot of people is charity. People want to be able to have money so they can donate to their favorite cause or favorite charity. One of the ways you can do that is by having something called donor advised funds. And by setting up a donor advised funds, you're able to give charity, you're able to donate appreciated stocks, which kind of saves you from capital gains. And at the same time, you save on taxes as a way of donation. So that's one way to take advantage of some of these charitable accounts that are offered. And then the fourth reason is taxes. And like I mentioned earlier, taxes and retirements go hand in hand. And you definitely want to be able to take advantage of the retirement accounts, such as 401k, 403b, IRA, Roth IRA, SEP IRA if you're individually, if you're self-employed, and save on taxes considerably. Now, if you look at this slide, it kind of solidifies what I mentioned earlier, which is the benefits of tax savings, tax deferred accounts that are usually offered through retirement accounts. So if you look at this graph, the dark blue bar over here is the returns you would get in a retirement account or in a tax deferred account. And you see that, if you take advantage of any of the retirement accounts and contribute to it and invest it, you are able to achieve almost 10% in returns, so 9.70% in returns. But if you contribute the same amount and invest it in a taxable account, your returns drop by good 2 to 3%, and you are able to achieve only about 6.89% in returns by investing the same amount, but different account type. So it's definitely, in our best interest to take advantage of those retirement accounts that are offered, and different retirement accounts can suit different people. So you may want to speak with a financial advisor and figure out which retirement account is more suitable to you. And then, of course, inflation is another thing that we need to be mindful of. You don't want to have excessive cash in bank account because you're losing to inflation 3% alone every year. Of course, it's a good idea to have emergency funds, but keep in mind that having too much cash sitting in the bank is making you lose the purchasing power of that money. So it's always a good idea to put that money to work by investing it. Now, this one is another one of my favorite slides, and it's actually much more beneficial to young people. If you look at this slide, the left, it's basically the life cycle of revenue streams. And the left side of the graph, if you look at it, it is when people are young. When you're young, a good chunk of your income comes from your job, your primary job, about 90% or so. You may have investment accounts here and there, but they're not bringing in as much income as your primary job is. But as you approach old age and retirement, your goal should be to have multiple revenue streams. So you want these investment accounts to grow substantially. And eventually, when you're close to retirement age, you want your primary job to bring in about 20%, your dependency on your primary job income should be, reduced to 20% because your investment accounts are bringing in substantial amounts. So, Allah forbid, when we're old, may Allah protect us all. But if something happens and you're not able to keep your job, this way your dependency on on the income that you were bringing in from your job is much less. It's only supplemental at this point, and your main income sources become your investments. So, this is something, especially young people, need to keep in mind, and this should definitely be your goal. And we'll discuss about how you can diversify your investments in a bit. So here's other investments that you can consider other than stocks. Of course, you can invest in real estate and earn some rental income. At the same time, your asset can appreciate. The thing about real estate is obviously you have to have a much more long-term outlook, a long-term commitment, and real estate also requires bigger chunk of money to get started, whereas a stock investment account can be started with smaller amounts. Another area that we can invest in is commodities. So you can invest in precious metals like gold, silver, and use that as diversification as well. You can invest in businesses, startups. If you have a talented pool of friends and families, that's another area where you can invest. Or if you have been blessed with certain talents, let's say you're good in photography, so you can start your own business in photography, wedding photography, graduation pictures, and generate a revenue stream in addition to your primary job. Art, many people are good in art. You can definitely put that talent to work on Etsy or wherever is more convenient to you. Many people are good at cooking, so you can use that as an extra way to generate revenue for yourself. So the basic idea is that you want to diversify your investments and not put all your eggs in one basket. This brings us to the second part of the presentation, where we'll be discussing investment philosophy. And at ShariaPortfolio, we follow value investing. But before we dig deeper and discuss value investing, let's discuss what exactly do we mean by investment? What even is investment? What's the definition of investment, right? And who better to look for the definition of investment than Benjamin Graham? Benjamin Graham is considered to be the father of investment. Warren Buffett, I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of him. He's always in the news. He's considered to be the greatest investors of our time. He considers Benjamin Graham as his mentor. He attributes a lot of his success to Benjamin Graham, and he feels he's learned a lot from him. So Benjamin Graham defines investment this way, and I'll read it to you. An investment operation is one which, upon thorough analysis, promises safety of principal and satisfactory return. Operations not meeting these requirements are speculative. So what it means is, for something to be even considered an investment, first comes the analysis, which means you have to do thorough analysis and research in what you're planning to put your money in, right? What you're planning to buy, what you're planning to invest in. So the first prereq is to do the proper analysis, proper research. The second is, after you do your research, your homework, you want to be able to pick an investment that can promise you safety of principal. By safety of principal, it means the actual amount that you're investing should be safe in there. So it should guarantee the safety, I wouldn't say guarantee, but promise you the safety of the actual amount that you're putting to work. And then the third requirement is that there should be a promise of satisfactory return. So if it passes at these three levels, you have done proper research, there's safety of principal, and there's satisfactory return that you see a good potential, then it is defined as investment. Now let's look at value investing. Obviously, at ShariaPortfolio, we promote value investing, and value investing basically is a holistic approach towards investment. We do a lot of research. We review our holdings for a margin of safety. We determine whether there is a realistic or reasonable return on the holding that we may want to buy. We determine if the stock price is justified. We look at the longevity of the company, who the competition is, what's the growth projection, a lot of different things. So we basically do a lot of research before we decide to buy a stock of a company. It's kind of like buying a business. So if you wanted to buy a restaurant, you're not going to buy a restaurant just because whenever you drive by, you see a lot of crowd in front of it. That's not going to be the only reason why you want to buy that restaurant, right? If you want to buy the restaurant, you're going to get deep into it. You're going to make sure, you know a lot of things about the restaurant. What's the location? What's the neighborhood like? Are there any universities around? Are there any offices around? This way it ensures you lunch crowd. Is there a residential neighborhood around it? So, it guarantees takeouts maybe. Is the restaurant in any kind of financial debt? What's the returns the restaurant generates? So you're going to do a lot of research if you're going to buy a business, correct? That's exactly what value investing is. And that's exactly how you need to approach even stocks. So if you're trying to buy a stock, you need to know the company well before you decide to buy that stock, which means you need to do thorough analysis, thorough research, and make sure that it satisfies that basic definition of investment that we just read about. A day trader, for example, might just look at the chart and see a little trough in the chart and decide this may be a good point for me to buy this stock. I may be able to make good money and get out of it soon enough. So this, you see how a day trader's mindset doesn't even fall under the investment definition, right? Because it's speculative. He has not done the analysis. He or she has not done the analysis. They haven't looked into if it will promise safety of the actual principal, guarantee some returns. None of this has been covered when you do day trading. You're just buying into a chart versus buying into a business. So we don't do all of that. We do thorough research, and we approach buying stocks as if we're buying a business. Because remember, when we buy stocks, we are becoming part owner of that business. And then there is another thing about value versus perception. So you may have noticed in the stock market that a lot of time the listed price of a stock does not actually reflect the intrinsic value of the company. So the intrinsic value of the company is something that is connected with the fundamentals of the company, but the listed price might be completely different. And we need to train ourselves. We need to be able to screen through the difference and decide if the company is actually fundamentally strong versus it's just hyped up. So, when you see that the hysteria, that mania about certain stocks, recently we noticed about GameStop, right? You need to be able to screen through that hysteria and realize that is GameStop, or that company, that particular stock, really have that intrinsic value versus another stock that is not hyped up right now, but it actually has that intrinsic value in it. So if you notice, value investing is very much like there's this hadith that probably we all know, you all know about. It's a Tirmidhi hadith, which says that tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah. So basically, when we're doing value investing, we're using value investing as a philosophy. What are we doing? We are covering all our bases, right? We're making sure that we are taking all the preventive measures. We're doing all the research, and we're tying the camel. Once you decide that this stock is good for me, I have done whatever research I could do, and you buy the stock, then you put the trust in Allah, correct? So it's basically, it aligns with what we're taught in our Islamic values as well. So that's what value investing is. And we approach stocks through value investing at ShariaPortfolio. Here's a quote, a very famous quote actually from Warren Buffett. And I'll read that quote. It says, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." So I'm not trying to promote greed here, but basically what it means is that when you see, like I mentioned earlier, when you see that hysteria, that hype, that herd mentality about buying a certain stock, everybody's jumping on the wagon and trying to buy that stock. That's when you need to hold back and look at it, and then start that analysis and see, is it really worth that price? Does it have that intrinsic value? Do your research and hold yourself back. Versus when you see people getting fearful, that's when you want to actually get greedy. That's actually a clue that you may want to actually dig in deeper and see that may be a good time to buy. For example, last year when the whole coronavirus lockdown happened, we're actually going through the anniversary of the lockdown, right? When it started. So last year around this time, the markets crashed. Globally, we had not seen these numbers historically ever, and many people were fearful about it. Of course, in these times you do have to reevaluate your portfolios and trim certain stocks and stuff, but that's actually the time to get in, because everybody was fearful. The stocks had rock bottom, and that's when you do the analysis and look at it. Did the actual value of the companies change because of this external condition? It still has that value, and that's when you want to get into and put your foot in and get started with your investment. So again, be greedy when others are fearful. And now we will discuss a little bit about Sharia compliance. So far we have learned about the stock market, value investing, and the third part about or about the presentation is Sharia compliance and how do we figure out if a certain stock or a company is Sharia compliant. Let's begin with the definition of what is halal investing. Halal investing refers to investments made in securities which conform to Islamic principles. When these investments adhere to the guidelines of a trustworthy Sharia advisory board, they're considered to be Sharia compliant. What does that mean? It means that it's not just enough that that particular stock or that particular investment is conforming to the Islamic principles only. In addition to that, you also need a proper, formal, certified Sharia advisory board to, to come up with to certify that that investment is Sharia compliant. So it needs two of the things. We can't leave it up to each individual to decide if the investment is Sharia compliant or not. It actually needs to be certified by a Sharia advisory board. Here's the Sharia advisory board that ShariaPortfolio uses. It's called AOFI. It's an acronym. It stands for Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. It's basically a board that consists of about 9 to 10 scholars, and these scholars come from all across the globe. So there's a diversity of opinion coming in. That's a good thing. And there are several advisory boards in the industry, and AOFI happens to be the strictest, the gold standard. And at ShariaPortfolio, we prefer to go with the strictest to be on the safe side. And AOFI is the Sharia advisory board that sets the guidelines for us on what is Sharia compliant and what is not. And they basically screen the investments. They put the investments through 3 filtration systems, through 3 screens. They don't call it filtration or screens, but that's what I'm using as a mean of explanation. So the first screen that they use is a very high level screen. And it is something any Muslim, any average Muslim should be able to screen the investments through. Even if you're a non-Muslim, but you're familiar with the Islamic principles, you should be able to tell, which is, it's obvious any company, any organization whose primary source is gambling, alcohol, pork products, weapons of mass destruction, highly leveraged businesses, which means interest is involved, tobacco, adult entertainment, music, cinema, or broadcasting. So, high level view, any company that has these sources as their income obviously is not Sharia compliant, and we don't even need to worry about them. So you take those companies out. You don't even have to look at them. They're obviously Sharia non-compliant. And then once they're out, you look at the remaining companies. So that's the first screen that Sharia Advisory Board uses. And then the next screen that they use is the rest of the companies that have permissible income, Sharia compliant businesses. How do we invest in those companies? So not every method of investing can be Sharia compliant, even though the company itself is Sharia compliant. So as Sharia compliance, we are allowed to use only stocks, sukuks, if you remember, we discussed sukuks earlier in the presentation, mutual funds, and halal ETFs to invest in those companies. We are not allowed to use preferred shares because preferred shares are considered non-Sharia compliant, and you don't have to worry about preferred shares. The default method when you have an account is to buy common stocks, not preferred shares. You would actually have to look for preferred shares if you wanted to buy it. So you don't have to worry about accidentally ending up buying preferred shares. And the reason preferred shares are considered Sharia non-compliant is because they're kind of like a cross between stock and bond. So, and because of that, there's an interest element involved because of the bond part of it, and which is what puts it outside Sharia compliance. And then the last screen that we have to use to consider Sharia compliance is if you remember the remaining companies that we are or organizations that we're left with when we take out the obvious non-Sharia compliant ones, just because their business revenue is halal, that doesn't automatically make them Sharia compliant. There's a little bit more of digging into more research that needs to be done. So what it means is that you have to look at the financial ratios, and these are the financial ratios that you have to put those stocks through. So the interest-bearing debt over 12-month average market capitalization should be less than 30%. Cash equivalents, and receivables over assets should be less than 30%, which means that if the company is holding more than 30% cash, more likely than not, it's earning through interest. It's loaning that money. And then the third screen is cumulative revenue from non-compliant activities, and non-operating interest income should not exceed 5% of the total income. So these are the screens that are set by Sharia Advisory Board AOFE, and we make sure that we screen all our stocks and our investments through all these screens that are given to us. Obviously, now that you have learned about stock market, investment philosophy, Sharia compliance, you want to know how you can use that knowledge and get started. And there are different ways to get started. One of the ways to get started is to self-manage with a brokerage account. So you could open a brokerage account in any of those brokerage firms out there and buy and sell stocks and funds on your own. You can, like mentioned earlier, you look at the stocks, you do your own research, you do the thorough analysis, you research it from different aspects, who the competition is, what's the growth projection, is the stock price justified? You do all that research, and if you arrive at a good conclusion and you like that stock, then the next thing would be to screen that stock for Sharia compliance using that logic, the basics that I shared about Sharia compliance. If you think you're unable to, some people are able to look into the financials and able to figure out on themselves whether it's passing Sharia compliance or not. But the one easier way to do that is you could look at the prospectus of some of the halal mutual funds available out there, or the ETFs, halal ETFs available out there. And these prospectus usually have about 100 to 300 stocks listed in there. And you could go through all those stocks and narrow down your investment choices to probably 10, 15 stocks or so. And make sure you don't want to pick all the stocks from the same industry. You want to diversify. So not all stocks need to be from tech or healthcare. You want a little bit of everything as a means of proper diversification. And then narrow it down, and then of course look at it if this is a good time to get into that stock or not, and start your investment account. So if you're able to do all of these things, then you're good to go. You are able to manage your own account, and congratulations on that. But many people feel like they're not cut out for it. They find it overwhelming, and they feel like it's, they don't want to take that risk. They'd rather have the experts do it. In that scenario, you can choose an advisor, a licensed professional, to help you manage that account. And when you're trying to look for an advisor, there are several obviously questions that you need to ask. The three of the main questions that you need to ask is, first, if he or she is able to he or she understands what is Sharia compliance. So a lot of times when clients bring their statements from different advisors that are not Muslim, but they claim they understand Sharia compliance, I see a lot of stocks. We see a lot of stocks in the account that are only screened through that first high-level screening that I mentioned. If that they just ensure that the company is not involved in some of those obvious businesses like alcohol and gambling, but they don't put the other screens through. So you want to make sure that the advisor understands Sharia compliance. Second is, of course, investment philosophy is an important aspect of investment management, and you want to make sure that the advisor's investment policy is aligned with your goals. And then third is, of course, management management fees, you want to make sure that whichever advisor you're working with is a fee-only financial advisor. So there are several financial advisors out there who you may not even realize, but they not only take fees from you, but they also take commission for whatever investments they're putting in your portfolio. So obviously there's a conflict of interest and bias. They will tend to put investments in your portfolio that will pay them the commission at the back end. And they may not necessarily be aligned with your goals. So you want to ask these 3 important questions to the advisor that you're working with. And then the third way to get started is, of course, to work with a Sharia portfolio financial advisor. You can reach out to me or any one of our financial advisors, and we'll be happy to schedule a consultation call and address all your questions. Some of the services, we offer 2 services to cater to our different audiences. Our express services are economical solution to halal investing. It's more like a self-serve setup. You're able to start yourself and set up your account yourself. The starting minimum is $1,000. It has lower fees. You do get to work with a licensed professional, but in a very limited way. And it's mostly catered towards fresh graduates, younger people who are more comfortable with the online solution and who are starting with lower amounts. Our access service is the solution for comprehensive wealth management, and it's our more popular service that we offer, and it comes with a lot more features. One is you get your own financial advisor, you get a dedicated client support team, you have customized portfolios, and you also have a personalized account portal amongst all the features that are offered under access service. And that brings me towards the end, of the presentation. Here's my contact information. You can write to me. My email is my first name at ShariaPortfolio.com. So it's Shafaq at ShariaPortfolio.com, or you can call me at my cell phone number or text me, and we can jump on a phone for a quick call. Or you can even call me at the company number with the extension 818, and that will ring on my cell phone as well. And I'll be happy to speak with any one of you. And I'll open the floor for questions if you all have any. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. I know there's some questions in the chat, and I know some people unmute themselves. Feel free to ask your question, whoever unmuted themselves.
Okay. Salam. My question was, after you pay the $1,000, what's the smallest package that you could do monthly to contribute to the $1,000 that you paid?
Okay. And you said your name was Samal?
My name is Jasmine.
Jasmine. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your questions, Jasmine. First of all, you're not paying $1,000. That $1,000 belongs to you. You're investing that $1,000 for yourself, and we're managing it for you. So $1,000 is the starting minimum. Once you meet the starting minimum to get started, you don't have to contribute regularly. You can just keep it at $1,000 and keep that money will be invested on your behalf by us. You get 24/7 access to your account, and you're able to check it, the activity, what's going on, what's being bought, and all of that. But if you're trying to save money, then definitely it's in your best interest to automate those savings. So a lot of people, when they start an account, they set up an automatic deposit of $10, $50, $100, whatever anybody is comfortable with, and that amount keeps getting deposited in your account every month. And as the money comes in, we invest it for you.
The other question in the chat is, for those of the person asked, for those of us just getting stable financially, how do I know I'm ready to invest? For example, what percentage should I be able to be comfortable to invest while I also have regular normal expenses and still have some emergency funds left over? So they're just asking for general when someone is ready to invest.
So we typically advise keeping up to 3 to 6 months of emergency funds. And then after that, whatever cash you have, you can get started with investment.
Okay, that was Sarah's question. And we have Amina ask, What criteria makes investment halal, which is you kind of answered it in your presentation.
Correct. So
Uh,
there's not one criteria, there's more than one screens that you put those companies through. And again, it's not something for you and me to determine. It's the scholar's job, and they do the job best, which is why we follow a Sharia advisory board, and they are the ones who have set those guidelines. And the advisory board that we follow, AOFI, is considered to be the industry gold standard. It's one of the strictest available in the industry. So it's actually better to be on the safe side. So there may be other advisory boards that may consider certain companies halal, but it may not pass Sharia compliance when it comes to AOFI.
mhm. And Faiza had a question about like an incident that happened a couple of months ago where there was an like when Reddit investor began to invest into like GameStop through like Robinhood, and Robinhood stopped stopped them. So like the whole incident that you're familiar with, they ask about, will there be ever a point where the rich will somehow stop the market when they realize more regular people are joining the learning about stock, and because there is not enough money for everyone.
I lost you in the end. Uh,
Oh, because yeah, do you think like there is going to be more pressure from the rich people of like stopping the stock market because a lot of people are like joining, and that is not going to be a lot of investment for everyone?
that's more of a philosophical question and more policy based. So I don't even know if I can answer that question.
And Vaiza, let me know if I didn't ask your question very well, and feel free to unmute yourself at any time. So the other question we have here is from Aisha. How can we avoid interest in investment like platforms or investing platforms?
So we don't invest in interest, right? That's why we don't. That's why we don't hold bonds in our portfolios, which are interest-generating vehicles. We invest in stocks. We invest in sukuks, which are asset-based, and we invest in halal ETFs and funds.
Mm-hmm. And also another question from Faiza asking about, is the organization that is like this organization that helps Muslim investing into a stock, or this is just a presentation helping us to invest in our own, and if
No, no,
so.
no. So the three ways that we discussed that you can get started. The first one was if you're able to do it yourself based on the information that I shared today, you're good to go. You're able to do it by yourself. If you're not able to do it by yourself, you can reach out to any advisor of your choice. But again, you have to ask them those questions that we discussed, right? To make sure that that advisor is good for you. And if not, you're definitely free to come to me or a Sharia-Portfolio financial advisor. So no, it is definitely an organization. I work for Sharia-Portfolio, which is a financial advisor. We've been in business for 15 years, so we're not new. And you can definitely reach out to me, and I can address your questions and help you get started. And we are able to manage your account for you.
Hope that helped. And Sadia had a question, is there any ways to invest in Muslim owned companies or Muslim benefiting companies?
Definitely, if there is any Muslim owned companies that's publicly listed, we would definitely keep that in mind and in consideration. Or if there's any company who by association helps Muslims, that would definitely be put under consideration, provided it passes all those screens.
Mhm. And the last question, or not the last question, before the last question from Amina, can you tell us what ETF stands for?
ETFs stand for exchange traded funds. So they are kind of like a fruit platter, if I may say so. So they're like a platter of different stocks, but they're slightly different from mutual funds. Mutual funds are also like a platter of different stocks, but they're not traded on the exchange. So you're not able to buy and sell mutual funds as the day goes about. That transaction happens only towards the end. So you can buy the mutual fund at 9 a.m., but it won't happen until the market closes after 4 p.m. And then there are other differences also. An ETF, you can buy and sell throughout during the day, just like you would do stocks. ETFs also tend to be cheaper than mutual funds. The fees are much cheaper. They're more affordable than mutual funds. And then there are other advantages, pros and cons of both.
Mhm. And Ariana Hussein had question. I was always taught that it was the best to maximize your retirement contribution first before investing. Is that true? Similar to other question, should I be investing in the market apart from that insight instead? And then the other half of the question, am I losing out by maximizing retirement contribution?
You're not losing out. So I get that question a lot. Should I prioritize my retirement account or should I open an investment account? My answer to that is it's good to have both. This way, you're contributing towards your retirement account, taking advantage of the tax benefits that are offered through your retirement account at the same time. But then, you can't touch that money until 59 and a half. If you can't withdraw that money. But if you open an investment account this way, you're putting some spare cash to work. This way, if you need some money in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that money is easily accessible. So investment account is fluid money. You can have it whenever you want. But retirement accounts, you can't withdraw the money until you're 59 and a half. You can withdraw, but then you'll have to pay penalty and taxes on it, which is why we typically say you can't withdraw, which means without any tax implications. So it's good to have both, a good balance of both.
Mm-hmm. And then the other question from Markia, how do you feel about folks using apps like Robinhood, Sophia, Wahad, investment, like Cash App and all this thing to do investment?
I mean, Robinhood has its disadvantages. You definitely want to be a little bit careful. I'm not sure if it even offers all that protection that we earlier discussed, like TD Ameritrade offers, as a trusted custodian, it offers protection, FDIC insurance and SEEPS insurance and all of that. So I'm not sure if Robinhood, I know it didn't used to. So the last I checked, it didn't used to. So I'm not sure if it offers all those protection, and it is possible that you probably don't get the optimum price when you're trying to buy, or at the optimum price that you're trying to sell, because you get what you pay for, right? Nothing's for free. So you need to research all of that. She also mentioned Wahid. Wahid is another finance, it's an app-based financial advisor in the sense that they are only a robo-advisor. So if you remember, I discussed two services that we offer, the Express and the Access. Wahid is the equivalent of the Express service that we offer, and you don't actually get any interaction. It's all online, and you get set up through online. And you also don't have, Wahid doesn't offer individual stocks. So you could have a huge amount, 100,000, 500,000, a million, but there won't be any individual stocks in your portfolio. Wahid is only restricted to funds, a few funds that they have. And then another difference between Wahid and us is that Wahid is relatively new. It's about 3 to 5 years old, and we are 15 years old. So there's a bunch of differences. Of course, it's nice to have a competitor, and we appreciate having Wahid in the business. So our best wishes are with them, but this is just for educational purposes. So you make a decision. These are the differences between Wahid and us.
Mm-hmm. And Miriam had a question.
And Wahid also doesn't offer all types of accounts. So the types of accounts they offer are also restricted.
Mm-hmm. And Miriam had a question. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin? And I know Bitcoin is a big and huge topic.
Okay. Okay, Bitcoin. Everybody wants to know about Bitcoin. So, within TD Ameritrade portfolios, we can only buy own publicly listed stocks. So you're able to buy cryptocurrencies, through other alternative platforms, but we're not able to do that on TD Ameritrade. And if you remember, we discussed Sharia compliance, right? And what was Sharia compliance that we discussed? It was, it has to adhere to the Islamic principles, and you need to have a proper official certified board certifying that it is Sharia compliant, right? It cannot be left to individuals like you and me. So right now, as an organization, we are waiting for the a certified body to say that cryptocurrency is Sharia compliant. They are leaning towards it being halal. A lot of scholars have given their opinion that they're halal, but that's not enough for us as an organization. We actually need them to be certified Sharia compliant for us to be able to invest in it. But having said that, there are ways that we can benefit from the cryptocurrency craze. So the way we do that is we buy, we have certain securities, certain stocks in our portfolios, such as, the blockchain space, the hardware stocks or mining stocks that are in our portfolios that benefit from cryptocurrency gains, right? So indirectly, you benefit from it. So we have those stocks in our portfolios, or you can also buy stocks that own cryptocurrency, like Tesla, or there's some other companies that own Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So you can buy those stocks. So in this way, we're able to benefit from the cryptocurrency. And we have these stocks in some of our very aggressive portfolios for our clients.
Thank you. And the last question we have here is it better to put your money in IRAs or to the stock market, or both?
So when you're putting your money into IRA, that money is getting invested in stock market. So let's say you have $10,000 in your retirement account. What are you going to do with that $10,000? You're not going to keep it in cash, right? Because again, keeping in cash is actually going to lessen its purchasing power. You're going to lose to inflation every year. So it's in your best interest to invest that $10,000 into something. And what are you investing in? You're investing in stock markets. So you're buying halal stocks or halal funds and such. So you are invested in stock market even through your retirement account. But if she meant, is it better to invest in a retirement account or an investment account? If that's what she meant by stock market, like I said earlier, it's if you're able to, it's always a good idea to have both. So this way you have a balance of both the things. One is saving for you for later on, old age. One is for short term. So if you ever needed money, that's easily accessible in your investment account.
The last question is from Sadia. Could you ask to inherit your parents' stock portfolio? And then they say like they feel their parents have generation wealth and saved wealth in much better ways.
Could you ask? Well, that's up to your parents, right? If they say yes or no. Just kidding. But there's any account that you open has beneficiaries in it. So your parents have to assign you as the beneficiary to those accounts that they have. Basically, what beneficiary means is, Allah forbid, if something happens to the account owner, then that account gets inherited by the beneficiaries. And you can also assign percent. So, this much percent to, you can divide the beneficiaries amongst your children, that this much percent goes to your daughter or son, or if you have 3 children, this much percent is distributed to your 3 children. If you have parents, actually, you can even add them as benefit because they have right on your money as well. So yeah, definitely you can assign beneficiaries, but your parents have to say yes for that.
All right, we are at 4 minutes past the hour, so I want to be respectful for everybody's time. Jazakallah khair, Shafaq, really appreciate the presentation, everything that you have shared with us today. Mashallah, it's been, I've been on my own journey of investing and growing my own knowledge base, and I'll share with others. I'm actually in the process of rolling over an old retirement fund from a previous job into a IRA with Sharia-Portfolio. So I'm excited for that. And really, I don't see a lot of Muslim sisters out there in the investment advisory role. So please, we dropped her information in the chat. Please email her, contact her. She will help you and guide you through next steps. But we are really grateful for you being here tonight. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. Just a couple reminders. One is that we have our next event on Saturday night. The fabulous Asma Muhammad and Aisha Abdullahi will be running the show, but it's our next sisterhood at home. It is called You Are Enough. And so knowing your worth and building your confidence. And we're really excited about Qadar Muhammad, who's from Canada, who's going to be presenting. And with that, we'll just close out with dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, bless our risk, bless us tonight, guide us as we begin this journey in investing and growing our wealth. Keep us on the straight path, away from the haram and close to the halal. Whatever we earn is from you, and so protect us, shower us with your mercy, and keep us together united for the good of our ummah. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, Naushina.
Of course. All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam. You all have a great rest of the evening.